Hi, this is James Governor, co-founder of RedMonk. We're here for another Monkcast. I'm here today with Mina Ilieva, an AI engineer with TurinTech. So today the topic is going to be, of course, AI related. It's 2026. What else would we talk about? But yeah, TurinTech is a UK startup, an AI company. It's been around since before the LLM revolution actually kicked in. We're in Liverpool Street here today, so pretty close to that cluster around King's Cross. There is a ton of AI activity happening in London at the moment. I'd say that the city was now AI pilled.
That's a good phrase to use. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Tell us a bit about TurinTech and your role at the company.
Right, sure. Oh, well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So yeah, indeed, as you said, I'm an AI engineer. I work for TurinTech. I've been in TurinTech for maybe on a year and a half now. As you said, I'm an AI engineer, so I work more on the research side as of recently. So I assist clients with driving optimization work on our platform. And when I say optimization, this is sort of like the key thing that we do, right? So we leverage code optimization across various organizations. We work with banks, trading firms, but also, companies like Intel that deal with LM inference work. And so that's it. So I'm working more on the research side and, obviously kind of fixing bugs on the platform as well, making sure that the agents are working, making sure that everything's fine. And yeah, a bit of everything, but mostly research.
Tell me a bit about this code optimization question, because at the moment we're shipping a lot of slop. We maybe don't want to do that. So TurinTech's about code optimization. What does that mean and how does it work? What is it what sort of algorithm is you using? How does that work in practice?
Right. Great question. I mean, and you touched upon like the most important, like the pressing issues nowadays, right? You say we generate a lot of code slop. And that's essentially what TurinTech is, or our Artemis being central to TurinTech. TurinTech's product is trying to solve as an optimization platform because AI is everywhere, as you say. AI is in Finsbury Park. It's here, every in the room. Everyone says agentic and they just, sometimes they know what they mean, sometimes they don't.
Yep.
That's a part of the issue. But most generally, code is being generated at a large speed. A lot of money is being wasted on tokens, and that's good. And essentially, it does enhance productivity somewhere. But the main thing is do we use large language models or harnesses around them, such as agents, to actually produce code that matters, code of value, code that ships? And that's what Artemis and TurinTech essentially aims to solve for organizations. And we have. And I want to talk a bit more about the use cases that we've briefly, but some of the work that we've done that highlights that ability.
Well, one question is, you call yourself, you say sort of in research, you're working with the clients. I mean, should we be calling you a forward deployed engineer?
I think that work is handled by, so we work as a team.
Someone else.
We work as a team, but yeah, we do handle deployment.
Yep.
We deploy a platform in various ways. So it can be SaaS deployment, it can be on-prem, on people's cloud, etc. And that's a part of the thing that it's very important. So we make sure that people run their code locally. So they ensure that the data that is produced by the platform that they work with is only preserved on their machines.
Okay.
Right? It's pretty important.
So you're talking about those customers that have regulated industries, or certainly banking always cares a lot about privacy.
Any customer, really. I mean, we work with banks and they quite enjoy that level of anonymity, I guess, data anonymity, if I may say so. But we work with startups as well. We work with individual customers as well. We've assisted a lot of researchers in universities complete their projects, which has been pretty cool. And yeah, so literally anyone interested in code optimization. And I want to actually get back to your first question. I mean, what is code optimization? How does Artemis handle code optimization?
Yep.
So famously, Artemis started out as a platform leveraging sort of a genetic algorithm, right? So it's the kind of model that creates populations of potential candidates, in our case, code candidates, right? Would score them and technically get out via a fitness function the best candidate that will fit your problem, right? The most.
Okay.
Right. And that was something that was working for a long time. Now we've kind of build up on that logic of evolution, and we have a new tool that we're coming out with. It's called Discovery. So here we're leveraging more on the empirical method for code optimization, right? So our solution, not just to kind of the endless tracing of code changes that developers will want to have, but also systems that hallucinate quite a lot, and ours doesn't, right? Because what we do is we have a multi-agent system that generates hypotheses that turn into experiments, that turn into code versions that are manually verified. Well, sorry, what is done manually is just the approval.
Mhm.
They are verification is automated, and what happens really is, the user defines the generations, and so therefore you have this full experimental empirical loop that makes sure that any idea that an LLM agent or yourself will have will be verified, and you see if the code compiles tests, and it survives the benchmark, and then shippable at the
Okay.
end, right? So this is what we do.
So tell me about this. You mentioned benchmark. What are the things that your clients are optimizing for? So I guess this brings us to the use cases. Like,
Correct.
so it could be performance of the code.
Mhm.
But I'm assuming that some of those use cases are changing. So let's talk about the work that you're doing in clients, and a bit more about those use cases that you wanted to get to.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So, great question is like, what are we optimizing for? Because we talk about optimization. I mean, what are you improving
Mhm.
is the real question. So, when it comes to benchmarking, which is technically just a command that can be consumed by a runner, which is a software that we ship with our platform, so again locally, the benchmark kind of defines the metrics that our platform traces for the users. So when you say performance, I mean, we can also distill performance in kind of different sub metrics as
Mhm.
well, right? So we can talk about throughput, we can talk about latency, time to first token, et cetera, et cetera. So these are like metrics that are widely used in LM inference, right?
Mhm.
And crucially, there are also trade-offs between those metrics that we also leverage. I really liked a quote from a client recently that was like, well, optimization is never free bread, because every time you change something in
Mhm.
your code, you kind of have to be okay with some trade-off
Yeah,
in your metrics.
optimization is always about trade-off.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And so this is what we also deliver by allowing clients to define the metrics they care about. So primarily on the platform, if you just come in, right, you're developer, you just want to try it out, we do measure for memory, runtime, and performance. So like, CPU performance. So this is like the primary three metrics that we measure code performance by. But users can absolutely come in with more, and the platform can account for them. So I mean, the metrics or whatever we optimize for are tailored to the use cases that we work with.
See,
Right.
I'm getting the title for this podcast. It's Fitness and Free Bread.
Awesome. Love it.
TurinTech story.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, those are evocative themes. The free bread thing is interesting because that's it's I mean, it's not an English saying necessarily.
I guess so. I mean, the team wasn't
I mean,
of English origin, so I guess
okay,
right.
that might be why. But
Right.
I do like it. I'm going to be
Yeah.
thinking about free bread from now on. Um, okay, so okay, so interesting enough, you mentioned a client. You're working with Intel. Is that
We do.
is that a client that you yourself are working with, or just the team is working with?
I guess the team is working with it. I've been in calls and also personal meetings with Intel. They
Hmm.
partner with us quite heavily
Hmm.
for both the benefits of TurinTech and Intel themselves. So when it comes to our Intel work, for example, the latest kind of optimization that we're really proud of, right, if I may say so, is actually optimizing vLLM, which is
Yep.
their inference engine repository. We've managed to boost throughput for I believe within the range of 6 to 36% amongst quantized and non-quantized models. And that was huge, for them because it was actually beyond the value that they requested in the first place.
Hmm.
And we've used Artemis Discovery, right, to do that. So it was great. So that's just one of the optimization we've done for them. We also work with OpenVino,
Hmm.
which is another kind of like very low-level code type repository. We have had some optimizations and some work there. I believe that Intel are now interested to use the platform because of the OpenVINO work for more diagnostic purposes. And that's also a kind of way you can use Artemis for, right? So, repositories range from like very non-optimized to highly optimized
Hmm.
ones, right? And when you talk about, companies like Intel, you would surely think that their code is good, and it is. But, as changes progress on the repository, you can use Artemis, you can use our discovery tool, our empirical method kind of tool to keep up to date, to maintain your code and to make sure that nothing breaks along the way and to make sure that your ideas for optimizations are valid,
Okay.
which is a part of the workflow developers usually enjoy.
Okay. Okay. So I think vLLM is an open source project.
It is, I believe so.
So therefore, those benefits will potentially
Transpire into a PR,
will be
hopefully.
used exactly
Yeah,
across the industry. So
hopefully.
that would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
We'll see about that. I'm gonna have to look into the status of that actually. Okay, so tell me about me. It's always obviously London financial services. I mean, at the risk of a bad joke, given the context, why does one rob banks? That's where the money is. Why does one sell software to London-based financial services companies? Because that's where the money is.
Mhm.
What are the real optimization? What are the areas that you're seeing the most demand for in terms of optimization today? And is it changing? I think, as I say, the pre and post LLM revolution, before you were selling a different set of benchmarks. Now you're focusing more on sort of inference. What are you seeing? Or maybe you're not working. I mean, I'm asking about banks. Maybe you've been working with other.
I guess, yeah, this is a really good question. I was trying to think deeply about it. So, I guess the areas for optimization have been changing. I mean, by the month, not just like by the year, right?
Mhm,
Because AI is getting better and better, or maybe sometimes worse and worse when it comes to adoption, right?
mhm.
And that's what we're trying to help with. But yeah, the areas I believe, so there's a general, when it comes to inference optimization, there's a general direction in the way of local models being deployed, right? So like deploying models locally on machines, right? Because technically the value, well, the pricing of proprietary models has been increasing a
Yeah.
lot,
Is this
right? Like
because
this
they're
is,
looking to make savings on tokens?
I do believe so. I think
Yep.
this is this
Yep.
is probably the aim for everyone, but some people might say otherwise. But
No, I
I
mean,
truly,
I got
yeah.
to like the degree to which that has now become a mainstream concern. I think is really interesting. Like I got a
Mhm.
call from a reporter at in fact, an editor at the Daily Telegraph to ask me about like what's this token maxing thing,
Mhm.
and does it make sense? It seems like people are wasting money on tokens, and I think it's one thing for a tech magazine to be asking, but when it's the Daily Telegraph, that this has become very much a front level concern for organizations.
Do you know who I think? I mean, maybe that's a bit of a tangent, but I'd like to kind of like chime in here when it comes to like token maxing. Did you say talk?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the phrase is, and that's when you got organizations or individuals that are claiming like they're so good because they burned so many
Mm,
tokens. So you've got we had Amazon, which was literally you were measured on how many tokens you burned,
right.
which is not a great way to deliver efficiency. But we've certainly seen individuals, it's the classic Silicon Valley sort of like, oh, if you're not spending $3,000 a week on your agents, you're not going to make it.
Mhm.
And so the claims, and you look at some of the maths, it that's just not going to fly with a lot of enterprises. You start talking about thousands of dollars per developer is one thing. They're already like, wait a minute,
Right.
you add that onto a swarm of agents, and you want every agent to be burning that many tokens. Yeah, the economics swiftly get out of control. So on the one hand, you've got people like, yeah, token maxing is awesome because it shows how, look at me with all these
Mhm,
swarms of
mhm,
agents. I'm so
mhm,
productive. I've
mhm.
rebuilt this whole system
Exactly,
myself. But
exactly,
I think
exactly.
for a lot of organizations, they're more interested in, they're probably, token maxing is not what you want to do if you are Barclays Bank.
Right. And in general, I feel like token maxing isn't what you want to do if you want to be genuinely productive, if you want to raise PRs that actually get approved. So what I would say is absolutely my firm belief that a developer
Oh, for
should
you,
be
token
measured.
maxing is about maximizing
I
efficiency of
think
token
that's
use.
exactly what I think. Yeah.
You're re-owning token maxing. It's not about using more.
Yeah.
It's about
It's about using tokens the right way,
yep.
right? And it's about also measuring, the kind of changes you're trying to install, like you're trying to take, like create in your code base, right? And Artemis does that, and we're kind of following that workflow in general when it comes to our own work, and we also sometimes even like create that harness around validation, which is like, okay, if I make this change, will it compile? Will it pass unit tests? Will it produce better metrics?
Hmm.
Right? And that's something that, even if someone thinks about workflows like that, similarly to it still generates a red herring every now and again,
Yeah.
right? Because LLMs are very opportunistic, right? So if you just talk about token maxing, the first thing I think about is quote code, right? Have like 10 terminals open, have like 3 sub agents here, 5 skills over here. Don't know what you're doing, but you feel like you're on top of the world. Like that's the kind of like lonesome kind of entrepreneurial development.
That's the token maxer right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the token
absolutely.
maxer. Yeah. But we definitely support that. I mean, you can definitely use Artemis with Claude Code together. This is definitely not a competition there, but it's all about code validation at the end of the day, right? So, you know, you have some workflows and some skills that you've installed somewhere, but people forget that LLMs still hallucinate. People forget that LLMs are opportunistic machines, right? So if you want to use or employ a multi-agent system, right, that is going to ensure your work gets shipped at the end of the day, because that's your aim, then, you know, I'm going to say rely on Artemis, or, you know, rely on, you know, the developers as good as ours, technically, to build that for you.
We've certainly been seeing, on that note, worth talking about. So if we look at the DORA report, which has been going on for some years now, and it has now begun to spend more time looking at these AI issues, kind of this interesting disjunction where if we go back a few years, there was definitely moving faster was correlated with higher quality and less downtime. That was because the organizations that were moving faster had invested in the testing, the documentation. They were just more effective software development organizations. So yes, they were moving faster, but they had production excellence. So therefore, they were able to take advantage and have, as I say, fewer bugs, better MTTR, and so on. That's broken down, and what we're now seeing is a degradation in quality. So speed goes up, quality goes down a bit, and then Circle CI have got some really interesting research, and we're always at RedMonk. Questionnaires are great, and Dora is great, but we love telemetry data when it's actually based on machine data, right? And so Circle CI was looking at their builds. What they've seen is interesting in their clients is that the branches, there's an increase in work, but whether that's not correlated with the trunk. So we're seeing stuff that we're not shipping as opposed to stuff that we are shipping. So it's a sort of I hesitate to say fake productivity. But we are not made. The LLM revolution has not yet been a team sport. It's been about the individual. It's been about that person. We're talking about using Claude.
I agree with you.
And I think that's the transition that we need to make as an industry.
Yes. We see eye to eye here, definitely. I think it's one of the things that Artemis does really for organizations is enables kind of working in a team when it comes to using our agentic platform, you know, optimizations, you know, you raise PRs, you get these reviews, reviewed, and we give the user a lot of control as well, which is sometimes something that, you know, Cloud Code users or like, you know, mass code shippers that don't actually like, you know, get that kind of past that gate into production. They're not doing that, right? Because what they do is they just keep vibe coding like all the time because it's so good. And I feel like maybe I should also say something here as a neuroscience background type person going into AI. You know, dopamine is on all-time high in general in the world, and I feel like there's a lot of that combined also with the fear of.
And we used to talk about the mean time to dopamine of using containers, right? But the mean time to dopamine when you're using something like Claude, unbelievable. The feedback loop is so quick, and you feel amazing. You feel incredibly productive. Yeah. It's your dopamine is at an all-time high. You're not wrong.
Yeah. And even if you feel hopeless about something, right? You have some agent somewhere to encourage you that changing somewhere something, you know, whatever, can yield better results.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sonnet 4.5, was it? Okay. This is you know, but this, as I said in the past, you know, as I said in I think a minute ago, that kind of activity breeds a lot of red herrings in people's workflows. It's not very healthy, I believe, unless you know exactly what you're doing. And I believe it's a good sport for very experienced engineers, which leads me to a point I really wanted to make about, you know, there's a wide-ranging fear now in the industry that developers / engineers / researchers, whoever really, will be replaced by AI. You know, I think that's absolutely false. I actually don't think that anyone with a good eye for verification, for code, you know, good people skills, and, you know, also, as you said, team working skills will be made redundant. And, you know, and I think, it's just like a bit of a noise being made. But, you know, and we in TurinTech, we aim to also provide a product that tells users and actually gives them evidence for that same story. Because what we do is we just save time for exploration. We let developers find code changes, on their own, technically, either running our systems manually or in auto mode, regardless of what they want to do, whatever they have time for. But there's always the human eye validation thing. And there's always, of course, setting up that flow where you compile, test, and benchmark whatever kind of code you're trying to run.
I got to say, and I mean, I agree with you, but the rubric now has gone so far towards, oh no, we don't, we're not going to review the code. We can't scale to that.
Right.
Now, sensible people that are saying that are definitely, you do need review, but they're like, review will be via AI. I mean, we've seen this very large code bases. I think Chrome from Google is a good example, where initially they're like, everything needs to be human reviewed. And that's beginning to change.
Right.
Where it's like, we can't review the scale of work that's being done. But I guess that's where you need verification becomes ever more important. And I guess AI tooling becomes super relevant. Tell me about your customers though. You go to a bank and if you say things like, oh, you don't need to do human review, or like,
we don't say that to banks. We don't say that to banks. We do say that they don't need to write those PRs as much as they would previously do that. And developers really enjoy that because everyone hates writing PRs. So we do that automatically for clients. But we say that they should review the code, and the engineers we work with have an actual aptitude to do that. What I've also noticed though is more experienced engineers work more quickly with our platform, and they adopt it quite happily as well, and they're better able to trace what it does, which is further enhancing the argument that AI is just here to help you out. But yeah, so they do review on their own. And what Artemis does is you connect your code base, connect your branch to the platform on the cloud, or you can also connect to it locally now via the CLI. And any code change can get shipped into a PR very quickly. But the review happens by humans in the end.
Yep.
Right. If you have a review agent that you have as part of your internal workflow, that's pretty cool too. I personally would be interested to see that agent. I quite like creating agents, but no, we leave reviews to humans in the end. We want to hand control to users.
Okay.
I want to keep that up.
So we're talking about your use case. You're working with clients. You mentioned Intel, which was great. Are there any other customers that you can name today? Because that would be super awesome.
That would be pretty cool indeed. So I guess not at the moment.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about QuantLib though. So QuantLib rings a bell in the audience's ears. In general.
100%.
It's the major kind of quant finance repository, and it's a change that we actually shipped, and we're actually kind of proud of. It's a single code change, basically finding Artemis at the time. I think it was like a year or something ago. Found that there was a nested loop, kind of annuities. You say annuities are recomputed in a nested loop, and what I believe happened was it started recomputing them in advance, stored them in a vector, and it yielded around, I think, 30%, less time on testing.
Yep.
And that was shipped. That was immediately shipped. And that's one of the things we've done. And we have also worked with hashing libraries similarly to, QuantLib. One of them is Blake 3, which is fastest hashing function. Do you know what?
Try saying that quickly a bunch of times.
Do you know what a hashing function is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. Well, okay. So what we did is,
but I'll tell you what. Why don't you explain? Because maybe not everyone knows what a hashing.
What is a hashing? It's technically just an algorithm, right, or some logic that takes any size input and computes it into a unique hash, right? And it's kind of like the backbone of blockchain. You know how all that operates. And what we've done there is we have introduced, I believe, like there was a parallelization technique to reduce time and yielded better latency. So we made it slightly faster. I think it was like 2 or 3%. But for Blake 3, that's huge, right? You save a lot of time and money. So that was another optimization that we did. The most recent one, I think, is quite proudly, we optimized a mixture of experts model. Nemotron 3 Nano uses about 30 billion parameters, but only 3 billion of these get used by the experts to compute weights, which creates a bottleneck. So what we did, or a colleague of ours and our team did, is it shrunk those weights, the computation of those weights from BF16 to integer 8, which is this kind of a quantization technique there, boosting throughput, I believe, by 40% and reducing latency by 30. I'm not really sure about those numbers, but they would actually definitely two digits. So, So this is the most recent one. That was last week.
Okay.
Right. So we do amazing things with discovery. We do amazing things in the team, and we're learning a lot as well. And I think that brings me also to like the no free bread.
No, yeah,
Kind
no,
of like,
no free bread. There we go.
Right. I mean,
Oh,
technically, when it comes to optimizations, we do trade. We can also say there's an accuracy trade-off, right? That we talk about, and we have observed these trade-offs. But what I think clients have been quite okay with is seeing that there's a slight accuracy degradation in favor, for example, of more like throughput or like less like on latency.
Yep.
And I think I think this kind of speaks about, I just want to shed light a bit more on like the truth behind optimization, which is there's always a trade-off in the metrics you measure, and you're going to have to sacrifice something. But, Artemis kind of gives you sheds light onto what exactly the sacrifice is and whether or not it's worth it for you upfront, right? And quickly. And I think
So Artemis is some free bread.
Artemis is some free bread.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit of free bread. Okay. Well, I'm gluten free, so the whole bread thing. I mean, sounds great, but I mean, I don't even need free bread. But that's that's all we need to say about that. But so Mina, I think this is the no free bread. Great place to close the conversation.
Okay.
That's been super interesting. I think particularly, for our audience, thank you so much for sharing the information about those specific projects where you've improved performance. As I say, hopefully, frankly, that's a great marketing opportunity. The vLLM stuff, I think that's significant. That's used all across the industry now.
And we've validated it on different types of hardware as well. So it's hardware agnostic. It's great.
Oh, wait. See, I was going to finish, and then I wanted to ask you one last question. I'm going to do a Columbo thing.
Sure.
Models. So you talked about Claude. What are the main, and also, but then you were talking about like your customers maybe using models, running their own models, open weights models.
Yes.
What are you seeing most of? Tell us about what models should we be watching, or
I believe anything that works for you. I mean, depending on your workflow. If you're an individual developer, I believe you should try and, if you could afford it, use as many models as you want, right? But if you're for more an organization, if you do want to cut costs, then yeah, I feel like that's kind of what the future of AI is, and it is a personal opinion, but we are also prepared for it, right? Here in TurinTech, but I believe that deploying your local LLMs, optimizing them, quantizing them, doing whatever you want with them is a good at least practice to start. Like it's a good exercise. So that will be my recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as an industry, we're certainly moving to in your view of token maxing, which is token efficiency, we're certainly seeing an understanding. It's important that we drive this understanding that you should be choosing the right model for the right job. And frankly, there is a lot of model choice out there, and you don't always want to default to the latest, greatest, and most expensive. So on that note, I think it was really great Monkcast conversation. Thanks so much for joining me today. For those of you that are listening and or watching, please do all the smash like, subscribe, share it with your friends. I think it was a really interesting episode. So once again, thank you, Mina.
Thank you, James. Have a good day.